to go through both of your photos that you sent, and then I want to go over a little bit more of ways to make sure we can try and get this all blended in there pretty good. Um, you're really getting the hang of things, but we're going to really spend some time on some details to really see what we can do. So let's go over both, and then we'll go into um, a different collage methods and things like that. Let's start with this beautiful country picture. Now I'm holding the space bar down to grab the Photoshop document and move around in this zoomed in space. That way I can easily move around but show you what's going on. Now, you did a really good job of essentially replacing everything with these, and I'm going to draw on this too so you can see, with all of these awesome flowers. My computer has having a conniption with how much I'm doing on it at the same time. So yeah, so these flowers are beautiful, and they look really, really natural in the process too. They look like they actually belong in the particular photo. I could not believe that this was the same photo that we've been working on for a long time. All right, so the horse, great blend here too. It's a good position as well, specifically with all the other stuff that's around it. It's a little low quality of an image, so if you can, remember to search when you go to Google for the high, large pictures under the search tools at the top. Just to visually show you what that is, if I go to Safari, I go to Google, and I go to horse. Let's see if I get anything on the internet for horse images, search tools, size, large. Always go large, never go back, always go large. I think this might have been in the picture too. Not 100% sure. Either way, it still looks really good. There's a lot of this really cool foliage around the front, which makes it look like it actually belongs there, or like the horse is behind the flowers in the front. That's great. Here, it's a little hardcore right here, a very hard stop, which might be something you want to look at. This one's good because it's blended, and these ones are good because it's blended. Now here, what I mean by blended versus the hard stop is if there is a horse in the actual field, these flowers in the front of it would blend into the horse, into the dark background. So here in the back with the tail and stuff, you see how the little flowers come up and they go in front and they blend into the horse. This here is a very hard stop. Realistically, there wouldn't ever be a hard stop unless there was a 100% item, like flat edge that's going to go somewhere. So here, for example, if I'm going to really nitpick, this would be something you want to try and blend in better, to look more like this, because this is blended in pretty perfectly. All right, let's move over here to the women hanging out over here. Now, a few things right off the bat is you have a lot of this ghosting effect, is what I'm going to call it, where you have the actual person has this like almost film around it. You want to try and avoid that. Now that film is specifically, I think, because of how you're selecting stuff and bringing it over. That's the feather. You want this feather to be a lot less blurry and a lot less ghosty. You get this weird like haunted demon effect going on. Other things here, this is just a selection thing. Number one, you want to try and get items like this table that don't end right here, like in the middle of a person. So this table hypothetically would go here, starts here, ends right about here. Now here, if you have it end in the person, it looks even more fake. It looks like you just kind of like forgot this part of it, even though I know that the table doesn't actually go that far. But it feels like you forgot the chunk, even though it doesn't actually exist there. One thing I noticed right away is there are no legs on this table. It's essentially another ghost hovering over everything. All right, same thing with this other woman. In the umbrella, you get that weird ghosting effect. That's usually with the selection rather than anything else. With her feet, these flowers, zooming back a little bit, these flowers are particularly really, really thick and really tall. So she wouldn't be there entirely, or you wouldn't see as you would see a lot less of her feet on both of them than you do right now. So hypothetically, let's do this. I'm gonna go over here, grab your layer 0 on the layer sheet over here, grab the tool, the stone clone stamp tool, grab this here. I want to grab my brush and make it a lot less hard because, yeah, much better. Grab it over here, go over here, and I'm going to work in a little bit of this particular detail. Now you'll notice here that there's a lot of blurring going on, and that could be of how you're blending stuff together. You want to try and avoid having a really clear patch and a really not clear patch, because now you can see here hypothetically that, yeah, it's becoming a problem. So here, a good way to get her more blended, I'm going to lower my opacity, come back, and then add a little bit more of these flowers on front of her, and you can see that that's helping to blend her into the actual everything. It might be a little too much even then, but yeah, awesome. That's a good way, good idea. You just want to look for more situational awareness when it comes to looking at particular items in your pictures. This situation here, for example, what I mean by that is she is there standing in these weeds, not weeds, beautiful flowers. But the problem is she's standing in really, really tall flowers, but I can see her feet, which doesn't make sense visually with what's going on. Okay, also, yeah, she is a very funny looking hat. Anyway, let's go back to the other one, and let's look at some specifics here. Now, I saw a lot of really cool things in here. What's really cool is I didn't notice a lot of them until I really looked. The dog here, really good. Again, working on that ghosting thing. You got a lot of that ghosting thing going on. The squirrel, on the other hand, is super awesome and super in there. Again, the ghosting is a little bit of an issue. One thing we can do to help that too is remember the burn tool, and get a normal brush. You can always burn the squirrel in a little bit. Now, burning is something you want to be careful with, but you want to use a lot more than I think you're going for. I'm burning him in because he does look like he, is a little bit too fake. So if I burn him in, I'm trying to blend him in with the background. You're trying to, a lot of times with this stuff, make it look more like he's in the shadow or like he belongs in the picture. Now, we're getting there. I'm gonna burn his face a little bit. No, that's not giving the right effect. So remember, burning is a contrast increase. So it takes whatever range you have at the top, midtones, shadows, or highlights, and changes their contrast. So here the exposure, higher, helps with more exposure. So here I'll show you. If the exposure goes up, make my brush really, really big. You'll see here when I burn, it only affects, number one, the midtones because I have that checked off, but it really affects the exposure of it. So here, if I go over the squirrel, you can see I'm getting a lot more of this shadow on the rock, which is exactly what I want. But now the squirrel looks more like she's, hidden inside of that little cave right there. All right, same thing with the dog. I'm gonna burn a little bit. It's not working the way I want it to. Problem with the dog is it's pretty bright around there too, so it's not a huge deal either way. Maybe use front foot a little bit. The other thing too is you can always use burn also to do shadows. So if you see there's not a shadow for a particular item, you can use the burn tool to create a shadow like this. Yay! Now there's a shadow. Same thing with the bird over here, the woodpecker. I'm gonna burn him. And now you can see that I'm getting a lot more of a darker effect. But now here I'm gonna grab the highlights, and that'll affect the white, which is the highlight of everything. And you can see he looks a little more natural for what he's trying to do. I'm gonna break this a little smaller, and then just get, it's a little bit too much, but you get the idea. Same thing back here with you sitting in the back. I'm going to see you. I'm going to grab the highlights a little bit. I'm going to change the exposure down. This is essentially like an opacity meter. So I'm going to change the opacity a little bit, give you a little bit more of a shadow on the highlights, and then the midtones I'll bring down too. And I will ignore text messages while doing a video. But yeah, that's a little bit too much. So I'm going to step back in our history a little bit. Alright, you see how much of a difference that's already made. I'm going to step back. Alright, that's pretty good. Now if I zoom in even more, notice with the background that they have this very dark path. So what we want to do is we want to try and blend this in just a little bit better. I'm actually going to use the brush tool for this though. Now I have a very small brush, which is not going to help me. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Perfect. Bring on the opacity a lot. About this. Now I'm going to grab with my Alt or Option key. I'm going to grab a particular paint, color from over here, and I'm going to just paint a little bit of these particular areas. That way, what's it doing? It's not doing anything weird. Yeah, let's try that again. Alright. Strange. Oh, that's why. We want normal. Here, I'm going to pick the particular color, and then here, too much. Perfect. Now here, go down to the opacity, very low, like a very low 10. If I add a little bit of color there, it's going to help blend in the background with that particular stuff. So the background's very bright, so I'm trying to give the actual stuff on top of it that same brightness. I'm going to grab some color here, kind of blend in your feet a little bit, blend in around the outside, stuff like that. You can always darken stuff as well. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with this. Just trying to blend in the colors to be a little less blue and a little more green, which is what we're trying to reach for the stars. Now the opacity is so low it doesn't look like it's doing anything. Let's zoom out and see what we got. See here, what you wanna make sure that you try and do is, in this particular photo, you want to try and make sure that every item that's in there doesn't grab your attention right away. This one in particular is actually really distracting when I look at it from far away. So let's try darkening it a little bit. Now, like the burn tool, you can actually use a darken mode under the brush to help darken a particular part of the picture. Now here, with the brush tool mode, darken, and low opacity, I'm going to bring up the opacity real quick just to show you what it is. Make my brush pretty big. Here you see that I'm darkening everything with that particular color. Now here, if I do that on you, I want to, you can see I'm giving you that green tint, which is not what we want, but it's very helpful. So here, I'm going to pick a more natural color, bring down the opacity even more, and then go over you. Now this, again, works like the burn tool, but this is giving me a nice blend. And you can see here that you're starting to become a little more unnoticeable. Plus, so it's not as distracting in the grand scheme of things. Now here, this, I would definitely go with the burn tool. So the difference between the darken mode and the burn tool is the burn tool takes the 3 different types of exposures, the highlights, medium, and the dark, and when you use the burn tool, essentially it darkens one of those three particular things, the amount that you set it. With the brush tool and the darken and all these other different modes, these do a specific darkening or normal or light or anything in this menu, but it does it to the entire circle. So when I go through and do bring the opacity up, you can see that I'm essentially darkening anywhere that my circle hits. Perfect. Now I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to bring my opacity back down. And I'm going to blend in this house a little bit. Just a little bit. Again, get some darker bottom. I'm just painting it a little bit. Painting the top. I'm trying to darken this in so it doesn't look essentially as fake as the rest of it. So let's darken that. Now you can also do lighten. Lighten, I'm going to grab this brighter color here, will help lighten a particular area that might need a little bit of help, or it might be a little bit too small. Your hardness bring down a lot, that way my brush isn't so thick, much better. There we go. Now here, I'm trying to brighten up the front because you have this highlight on the ground over here. I'm trying to have that match the log cabin. I'm going to go back to the burn tool. I'm going to burn you a little bit inside because the inside would be a lot darker than the outside. And we're just, we're getting a lot closer. We're just trying to match this like very highlighty light source from the top and bring it down. All right. Let's move on to another project. Here's my blank sheet of paper. I'm going to go to the internet, and we're already on horse. So I'm going to grab a beautiful picture of a horse. This one. I'm going to drag it right into Photoshop. Beautiful. I love that picture. Now, let's also grab a picture of Donald Trump. Again, go to Search Tools, Size, Large, this one. And then View Image, here we are. I'm going to grab this, drag it to Photoshop, and here we are. Beautiful Photoshop. I'm going to unlock the layer by double-clicking on the lock. My computer's having a conniption because I'm doing too much at the same time. I'm going to grab my Quick Select tool. I'm going to quickly select the Don and his ugly face. Try and grab some of that hair. As I always do, I go to Refine Edge just to try and get a little bit clearer of a thing. I go feather up a little bit, feather down a little bit, smooth. You would definitely want to smooth this out. Change the radius a little bit. We're getting a little bit nicer edges on this thing. Maybe a little bit too much of a feather. Smart radius to anything. Yeah. We're gonna shift edge. Yeah, I'm just trying to add a little bit more of the Trump. Now here, what we can do too is I can use the brush tool to try and get a little bit more of him, like up here. And you can see here, I'm getting more of his hair, which is a hard thing to get on Donald Trump. But yeah, there we go. So here, with the brush tool, while you're refining the edge, you can get a better sense of what's going on. I'm going to erase because I got a little bit too much over here. And again, it should help you out. Yep, perfect, awesome. Yeah, let's try and go back to the Refine Edge tool. And let's go down here to this particular thing here. And that got a little bit too much. So we're going to go back to the erase tool. And we're going to erase some of this stuff. And you see it's helped me out. Perfect. Let's keep it at that for now. Press OK. Perfect. Edit, copy, and go back to this beautiful horsey picture, paste, and now I have a giant hand of Trump. Now I'm going to do some transform. I did Command T, and now I'm going to drag this in. Now what I want to do, I haven't fully decided yet, but actually thinking about it, what I want to do is I want to put him on the horse. Alright, so I'm going to rotate him so I get him close to the place that I want him to go. Move him over. Needs to be rotated some more. Be more appropriate if you put him on a donkey. But either way, yeah. So here we are. I'm going to bring the opacity a little lower so I can keep working on trying to get the exact location that I want. So I'm trying to match up his head with the horse head, and then we can erase everything else. Now let's see if there's another picture of Trump actually while we're here. I like that picture, but if we have one of him looking down, we'd be able to get a better specific look for him. He looks up a lot, doesn't he? He never looks down. What about this one? We want one with him looking kind of down and to the right, or down and to the left, depending on if we find something that looks that way too. Down and to the right, or down. We'll just find one of them looking down. Maybe Donald Trump doesn't look down. Maybe that's his thing. Maybe that's how he wins. He doesn't look down. This one's close, but I'm still not sold. This one. Down and to the right. Whew. It's not big though. I want big. I want ginormous. Let's try again. Down and to the right. Let's do this one. This one's pretty sweet. I like this one. I think this matches our particular photo too. Alright, that happens all the time with these photos. Oh look, it fixed it itself anyway. Alright, let's quick select his face, just this face this time, because we don't need the rest of it. And we're just going to actually double click. I'm not even going to do any refine edging, because I think we got it. Yeah. Copy. Gonna go in here, and we're gonna paste. He's freaking huge pores. Wish I had pores like that. Anyway, bring you up. This is good. This is a good one. I approve. Bam. Boom. Boom. Now we're going to do the opacity trick again because I don't want to resize this more than once. When you resize something more than once, you lose a lot of quality. So we want to try and resize this only once. Now, Photoshop doesn't actually change the quality of a particular layer until you finish resizing it. So if I made this really big again, it would still keep all of that particular, stuff, or those particular pieces of information. All right, I'm gonna let that be there. That looks good. Now let's zoom in the opacity a little bit more, a little less, a little less. I'm gonna zoom the heck in. All right. So let's get rid of this layer for a second. Double click the background to unlock it. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to use the magic wand tool to select his hair. Oh no. Tolerance is way too high, 12. So let's unselect some stuff and then try again. Much better. Now here we want to be additive. We want to add everything we select to the response, which is what the second tool here is for. I'm trying to select his hair. Now, why I'm doing this is because I want to delete this from the other layer. The other option we have is we can always copy this on top. Now the tolerance is too low. Let's cut the difference. You can also click and drag. But yeah, we want to try and get his hair. Oh, that's why. 3x3 average. Yeah, there we go. The 3x3 average takes 3x3 averages and then kind of gets the color in between. Yeah, there we go. That's much more what we're talking about. I'm going to zoom in even further because I want this beautiful strand, which didn't work. Let's try again. This beautiful strand right here. See that beautiful strand? I want it. I want it so bad. Now remember, it works at the tip of the wand. That's where it's looking for more information and contact. All right, so let's do refine edge. And let's try and get some of this a little bit better. I'm going to, yeah, that didn't work. All right, smooth, much more smooth. You can see the smooth brings in the edges. It gives a little bit of a ghosting effect, and the feathering is too much. I don't want any feathering. I do want contrast though. Contrast will help define between one part and another. You don't want too much smooth or you're going to get that ghosting effect. And I'm trying to get some of the rest of these hairs. Or at least a good approximation of where they are. That way we can add them later. That's pretty good. Almost there. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Add. Feather just a little bit more. A little less contrast. Nope. Let's shift the edge a little bit. Okay, so let's take this. I'm gonna cut it. And nope, cancel. I'm gonna copy it and paste it. And now that should still be there, but now if I have the Donald there and drag the Donald below it, I now have the Donald behind the hair at the back. Cool. Here we are. Donald's too big still. Trying to match the horse eye here with the horse eye over here. There we go. That looks good. Now here we're going to start doing some crazier things. First things first, I'm going to erase a bunch of Mr. Trump's chin over here. I want to hit right there. and try and give him like an accurate chin, as if he was actually, you know, didn't have like 5,000 chins. All right, layer 0. I want to do the clone stamp tool, and I'm working back and forth because I don't want to do everything like all in one clean shot. I want to get a lot of the background here. I want to replace it with this stuff. Cool. Now, I'm doing it because, and it doesn't matter if I do it behind Donald, because realistically, we're not going to see anything behind Donald at the end of the day anyway. Perfect. So here, I'm just going to get the sky to here. Go perfect. Now, here, with the bell, it's going to be a little more complicated. I'm going to grab this. Oh, my brush is too big, so I'm going to make it smaller. And I'm going to draw on this. Here, this is a great thing that you want to bring up. My trick is I usually grab it low, match it up, and then drag straight up for a bit, just to try and get a nice continuation of that pattern. You can always add other things. Notice there's 2 dots now, so let's get rid of the dot at the top. Oh, too much, too far to the one side. Now we're getting rid of the dot at the top because it looks kind of like I stole the texture from somewhere else. Here, I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to go up. Look how great that is. Just want to try and continue the patterns all the way up. That way. That way it feels and looks like it matches. So here, I want to add that up here and continue it. See how that curves? I want to try and continue the curve. It's nice just to have a little bit of a breakaway. Too much. All right. So here I'm going to continue the pattern all the way up. I'm doing it very slowly. The slower I find, the better. Now this is going to get complicated because technically this is going to start happening here. This, the bell, technically probably goes in around here. So what we want to do is we want to try and compensate for that with a little bit of this color here to try and notice how I'm now even blending with other shapes and colors in here. I'm just trying to, make this look more like it blends in there realistically. Alright, so here I'm going to grab some of that stuff below and drag it up top. A little bit too much. Cool. That all looks like a sun sort of thing. Alright, while we're here, I think we did a pretty quick, dirty job with that. I'm going to try and get a little bit more of this here. There we go. That looks a lot less like I patched together this guy. This is pretty solid. I'd spend a little more time on it if I wasn't running out of time. We're going to do the Trump man though here. I'm going to bring his opacity back up to 100. Here we are, back to the Trump. Now we want to try and replace Trump's head completely with all the hair that's on top of him. So we're going to do a lot of erasing. We're going to do this pretty slowly though, and I'm going to lower the opacity, make sure my brush is pretty soft. That way I get a nicer, smoother erase. Now I'm erasing because I really don't need any of it. I'm not trying to be profound with my edits. We're just trying to smoothly go from the horsehair into Donald Trump. Now this is going to be our problem over here. I actually think it should be go in a little bit more. with my directional key, moving left and right to try and get Donald Trump in there directly. Cool. All right, so here, this is a little ridiculous, I know. See how it's starting to blend though, from the actual Donald Trump into the horse. I'm even going to bring my opacity down even more and try and blend it even further from one into the other. Now, as I'm erasing, you can see that some parts of it are working real well and some parts aren't. Now this over here needs a little bit more either color or all kinds of stuff. So what I'm going to try first is I'm going to create a new layer, layer 4, put it on top of the Trump, but below the hair that we added. And now I'm going to grab the eyedropper tool, grab this, and I'm going to try and brush in some small hairs over here. Now the hardness, I'm going to bring up a little bit. Let's see what we can do. Opacity is low, that's why it's not showing anything. What I'm trying to do is I want you to realize that there are other ways of adding content in here. Now, what might be good is instead of doing that, we might want to use clone stamp tool. So here, what's in here? All right, let's get rid of you, you, and you. I'm going to grab a patch, this patch in particular, copy paste, undo, sorry, I see what I did. I have to make sure the layer's selected over here, copy paste. Now I have a new layer. I'm going to put it below the hair but above Donald. There we are. Now here I want to bring you over here. I'm going to rotate it. And I'm going to press enter. And now here, see how that's trying to match? Yeah, awesome. Now here I'm going to erase it, erase some stuff. I'm going to erase what's on Donald's face, erase what's over here, and zoom in even more. I'm getting into pixels now. That's how dedicated I am to making Donald Trump look like a horse. I'm going to erase the outside hard edges. It's better to do this multiple times with a lower opacity than it is to do it once with a hard opacity. You want to make sure that you gradually do something to give it more of a natural effect. And now this is looking awesome. Now let's zoom out and see what we got and see if there's any big glaring issues that we need to fix. I'm not gonna lie, it's weird. It's really weird, but I'm okay with it. Yeah, it's kind of messed up, but it kind of works. Yeah, just a little bit. Gonna just take the Donald layer and move it a little bit. Now, because we have everything together, we can still play around with things. I'm going to push him in a little bit. Now that looks a lot better. Maybe if I push him up a little bit too, he'll look even more. Nope, too much. Yeah, there we go. That is a weird looking horse. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna save this, and then I will send you both of the files. That way you have them, and then we can discuss. But yeah, your assignment now is to do this. Put Donald on a horse. So yeah, I think this is a good practice for all the blending stuff. Specifically, I think for the hairs, I think that's a really good practice for that. Once we get this done, I want to next week on Friday, which is my day now to send you videos, I think we should talk about do more selection, refining on getting from one thing from one place to another. Um, yeah, this is pretty clear cut because everything in this picture is very not fuzzy. It's very clear, very sharp, and it's really easy to put something in because it makes it look the same. Um, Actually, thinking about this a little bit, notice Donald's pretty bright on this side. What we can do is let's darken the midtones on this side a little bit. Yeah. I want to get the shadows too and add them. Nope, that's not working. I'm going to have the one dark part of it, and then I'm going to actually get the brush tool, grab a dark black, and then I'm actually going to use the darken tool mode. The darken mode will help me get a nice, too much. There we go. It'll give me a good black tone for the Donald. And see how I'm just slowly darkening his side. There's a pretty distinct line between A and B. So I'm just trying to make sure Donald, it's too much. Probably because my brush is too hard. Let's step back a few. There we go. Yeah, why is it that hard? I love a nice, soft brush. Oh, it's beautiful. It really gives you that, like, instinctual, like, now here's a nose. I'm trying to darken his nose. Vary a little bit. Yeah. A little too much. Yeah, it looked better before. There we go. Now, the other thing too is we can add color, but let's worry about you getting it in there for now. That one looks pretty good. Might darken this a little bit here, just to help blend his lower half in. Alright, let's keep it at that. Alright, Anne, have a wonderful week. Email you next week.